No, hello.
Hey, Aydika.
Hey, how's it going, Adam?
Doing
Thanks
good.
for
Okay,
having me.
give us 1 second. Just setting everything up and letting everyone come into the room. I play a little background music while we get going. And we usually start probably in about, I don't know, let's say 5 minutes. Give some people some time.
Okay, sure. I have the format's new to me, so I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is just I'm gonna pop on camera and we're just gonna do a Q&A. I just wanted to get people to know you and talk about things that are exciting to you. And I just feel like it's going to be really good because I love the way you think outside the box. And that's really like the major point that we'll focus on because it's so imperative that creatives understand how to access that, but also build in the business side. And you're so good at blending them. So anyway, that's what we'll be going over today.
Cool, fun.
Cool. All right. I'll be right there.
When I should, but I can't let you go. When I'm
Here. All right. I can see everyone's faces. Awesome. All right. So I'm so glad to have Aydika here today. For everyone here on the group, just so you know, Aydika, what we're gonna do is this is actually the earliest live stream we've ever had on a Tuesday. So some people are coming here. It's like a little different from our schedule, but we know we wanted to get you in while we could. So what we're gonna do is also share this in our private group, which it'll go into, and people can check out the conversation. But let me hop right into it. And as people start to come in the group, they can find out more about the conversation and can kind of explore with us. So the reason why I was asking Aydika to come into this group is because after having a chance to speak with her and having some time one-on-one, seeing how her mind works, I realized I was in front of someone who has a very unique ability to constantly create an outcome using creative different counterpoints and how they'll react on each other, but knowing what the outcome is wanting and that transferable shift in the human experience. And how do we get there? Knowing the importance of how creating almost like an alternate framework can help the person's mind release the identity that they associate with themselves and gives them a new chance to connect and think differently and explore and become their own kind of self creative in that mode. And I think this is an extremely powerful gift that she has and skill set to look at things like that, especially when we're talking about the creative world of arts that we're all in. And so the main point on main intention for this discussion is to help. We'll first have a conversation to kind of understand the mindset of how she gets there, but then also to show everyone here that a lot of times part of the thing that will make you have an expansive life and experiences is seriously just thinking outside the box. It's like just getting out of the box, and that kind of connecting with other people who are doing the same thing of thinking out of the box, and then you create your own new reality, which I feel like is very powerful, especially what we're doing with music. And also lastly, but Aydika really is a passionate supporter of music and understands the importance of it in today's society. How we all mentioned to you all how we're here together for a reason. It's much bigger than just making some songs to hopefully get on a MTV show. That's not what this group is about. It's how do we actually help to change the airwaves, because right now they're being polluted and no one really knows it. So we have to learn how to reconstruct the business that unfortunately has been controlling so much of the narrative, but not really giving the expansiveness that music does create if it wasn't under the holds of an industry. So that being said, I'd like to invite in Aydika James. How you doing?
Hey, I'm awesome. I'm super stoked to be here with you guys. This is my favorite kind of people. I love all humans, but you guys are the Avengers of our world, and that's how I see it.
Yeah, I saw how you put that. You were like, "Hey, Avengers," and no one wrote back because I don't think they're like Avengers. Like, what? What's the Avengers? They're like, "No, we are the Avengers. We're the ones who have the trumpet sounding. Like we are. That's what our role is here. It's much bigger than just like I said, making a song and putting it on Spotify. And I think whenever artists dilute their power, their sites are set on a very short list. So I just kind of want to ask some questions to you, if that's okay, and just kind of free flow today's discussion. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. All right. So first and foremost, like, where are you from?
I am from Portland, Oregon originally, so West Coast. And then I bounced around, kind of was homeless for about 10 years or so, just traveling nonstop. And then now I'm based in a little mountain town in Eden, Utah, but that's probably be changing again soon.
Okay. And then were you into any of the arts growing up? Was that part of your family dynamic? Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so I was a weird kid, and maybe that's something that most humans can identify with, and we don't realize that we all do. But yeah, I was half Japanese in a very, very not culturally diverse town of Portland at the time, and I was kind of the emotional one of the family. We had a lot of challenges going on in my family, and the way that I processed it was through art. So I was singing, dancing, playing everything I could get my hands on, painting on walls. My dad gave me a video camera and a tape deck at a certain point, so I was making movies. So art was how I processed information as long as I can remember. Piano was my outlet. I would basically cry through the piano. And I didn't even think about it, but I think I was actually expressing a lot of the unspoken emotions and thoughts that were going on in my entire family. So I was kind of like the conduit for all of that. And I'm super grateful.
Were you trained?
I trained in classical piano for 10 years.
Ah,
I started dancing when I was 9, I think. I
okay.
played flute. I played trumpet at a certain point. I played with a lot of different instruments, but piano was always like,
That's a
just
lot of instruments.
there. Yeah.
Like I played the flute, I played the trombone, I hit a little bit of the cello, you know, I was just tinkering. That's a lot of instruments.
Play guitar for a certain point. Piano's the only one that really like I still have any. I miss being around musicians, let's say that.
Uh, just out of curiosity, have you ever recorded one of your songs?
Not since I was a kid. I
Okay.
used to write. I'm actually really excited to be in this conversation more. I used to write songs and compose them and record them in my little janky 80s recording devices, but I haven't since I was a kid. I got all these ideas in my head at a certain point that they had to look or sound a certain way, and
Mhm.
that was when all the motivation kind of went down.
Mm.
And that's like poison if it gets in your head. It's so funny. We get this idea when we have a vision inside of us and then we're looking around, we're like, oh, it's got to look like that, and it's got to sound that good, and it's got to be this level of something. But no one can see what's inside of your head but you, right? So it's not supposed to look like anything. You are the one who decides what it's supposed to look like, and somehow that gets taught out of us.
I agree. I agree that the only way something new actually hits the airwaves or hits anything is that it sounds new. It
Mhm.
has to sound new.
Yeah.
Whenever there's someone who has a different perspective that stands out, we go, "Oh, look at that person," because it doesn't sound like everyone else. And that's, you know, a major, like Billie Eilish, like she didn't sound like anyone else. So that's why everyone was like, "Who's this girl?" Like she doesn't sound like all the 20 girls who all sound the same. She sounds different. She has a different, unique perspective. So I think that's cool. Um, I do think, obviously, when we're talking about quality,
Yeah.
there is a quality barrier that has to hit with everything that's, you know, a product, a produce.
Right.
But I totally agree with the creation of that,
Yeah.
because so many people stop themselves from just making something that sounds completely weird and unique, and then something goes viral, and they're like, "How'd that song go viral?" I'm like, "Because it doesn't sound like anything else." That's why. It's
Yeah,
cool.
it's got to get out of you, and then you can polish it, and then you can run it by people, and maybe it's going to land, maybe it's not. But if we stop getting it out of us, it eats
Mm.
us alive from the inside because we know it's in there.
So do you feel like that part of your life, it somehow it blocked you from the external point of view
Perfectionism for
for
sure.
for the quality, like the kind of music you're making, because you said it kind of felt stuck a little bit.
Yeah, I just stopped. I think I got this idea that if it wouldn't be understood, like if they're not going
Mm.
to get it, then I shouldn't share it. And so I stopped even sharing it with myself.
Mm.
And fast forward through art school and through businesses and through all kinds of projects, not everything's going to land, but it always feels so much better when you just get it out of you.
Yeah.
And I've thrown away more paintings than I've kept, but that's okay. I've gotten them out of me. It's the ones that stay inside of me that kind of kill me. And suck a lot of energy. It's like they take energy to stay inside of you in this funky way. So even if you're singing it in the shower, if you're doodling on a napkin, cool, get it out, and sometimes it's that napkin sketch or that like the lyrics that come out when you're least expecting it, because you get in the rhythm just getting it out. You're like, whoa, 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 that's something. That's really cool.
Interesting. So basically, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to bring you back to the light.
Yeah.
You said something had got you stuck, but what you're saying is really powerful, because you said you felt like you were a conduit for certain kinds of energy that was happening in your house and your area. And so you were kind of, you said, crying through your piano. And then when someone or external factors judged you, it kind of trapped the internal thing. And then so it couldn't get out the same way. It might have got out through paintings and other ways, other creative elements and different ways of expression, but it might have halted it for a bit for music. And so now it's me figuring out how we can bring you back to this side. And that's the goal.
I miss it. I've been thinking a lot around the house.
Yeah. Well, you say you have all those instruments and all the outside the box thinking. And I feel whenever someone, the best kind of person to have in a writing session is someone who doesn't think like everyone else, because they're the ones who throw out a line that you're like, ooh, I didn't think of that. But that's the way you just said that. Broken glass. You're right. It is kind of like broken glass. Like a broken heart is like breaking glass. Oh yeah. They say something that makes you just kind of like stop for a minute. And I think the people who are good at that, at making you stop for a minute, are the ones who write amazing songs, because they're capturing your attention, But anyway, so now let's flash forward a little bit. And especially how we kind of connected, it's through different entrepreneurship circles. So if you can kind of bridge how you took your art and your love for art, because a lot of musicians, a lot of artists don't always look at the entrepreneur side of things, even though we all are entrepreneurs. I mean, if you're going to post a flyer and go on Canva and make it and do graphic designs and ask friends to come to a show and, try and sell tickets, that's an entrepreneur. Like there's no other world that that's not. But for some reason, the music industry, people kind of downplay it. And then they go, well, I'm not really an entrepreneur, I'm a musician. And I'm like, well, every single thing you just did was entrepreneurship. But how to make that into realizing that's what your full potential is. So can you talk about how you took your creative side and matched it with the entrepreneur side?
Yeah. At first, I just put it aside for a while entirely. I had this idea in my head that if I was going to be an artist meant starving. And I wanted to have the freedom to live, give, create, experience, and explore, which meant I needed to figure out how to make money. So I went down the entrepreneurial path and I really chased it. I started doing a bunch of stuff that I wasn't super excited about, but I liked the idea that it could help people. So I started a SaaS company and various other things. And I got farther and farther away from that creative outlet and that creative community. And a handful of years ago, it was actually two things got us back into it. One was we started going back to Burning Man, my partner and I, and decided we wanted to build an art farm, actually use our hands for something. And we're like, well, that's really interesting. You're an engineer and I'm a designer. So what is the first question we should ask? And the question was, what would make people happy? Like, what would make people happy? So we designed an art card that was specifically designed to make people happy. And what we saw was that it created this pattern interrupt that turned everybody into a child as soon as they saw it. And then we use music and sound and engagement to create stranger bonds. So basically it's a giant flying peanut butter and jelly sandwich with wings. It's squishy. It's like a big bed that says sandwiches. And we give away cinnamon butter toasted, gluten-free gourmet peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But we inform people as soon as they get up to this art card that the sandwiches are flavorless unless they sing us a song or tell us a story. And the stuff that comes out of people's mouths when you, like, number one, they just assume that's now the reality. Like nobody even questions this. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I gotta sing or else this is flavorless. That was when people would literally start lining up for 45 minutes to wait for this little piece of sandwich. And what we watched happen was they weren't waiting for a sandwich. They were waiting to share something. And it's always like that last, and I've done this for years and years. I have the same shtick. Give a pattern interrupt that looks like a sandwich, turns you into a kid, tell them that there's something they have to do, like sing. And there's that person in the back of the line that hears they got to sing, and like back out, really shy, but they stay in. And so it's that person that comes up and like belts out, just like I've heard a cappella hip hop. I've heard this like incredible, like Irish opera. We've had like four strangers who happen to know the same Russian folk song now up front singing arm in arm together, running away like friends for life. I mean, just the most amazing things happen through song and through play. And what was great about this experience was all we did was create a container that instantly placed people into this imaginary world. And nobody ever walks away and goes, no, that's not true. That's not true. The flavor of this song will still have, they want to sing. People want to sing. They want to share their goods. And I was so inspired by what was happening. So we looked at that and we went, what is going on there? What is happening? We literally just woke people up. You know, we're so trained right now not to feel, to be strong, to buck it up. And so it's really striking me that music and voicing our sounds is it's not something that's just entertainment. This is critical to our humanity, especially now when people put on songs to make themselves cry, right? We don't even think about it, but like, what songs do you put on when you need to cry? What songs do you put on when you need to amp yourself up? We all do this because we're so trained not to feel, that these things help us feel. And this is a survival skill that this world needs right now, because what happens when you raise a society of people who don't feel? You have a society of sociopaths, literally, right? So the work of musicians is like, this is why I say that these are the Avengers of the art world. So that really woke me up.
Beautiful. I mean, I there's a few things I want to magnify within that bit of information. Definitely what you said about a society of sociopaths, because what's happening right now is there's a large level of delusion going on in our society, and it's happening from a bunch of different angles. And it's unfortunate because like, it's almost like you can look at something and say that's blue, and someone's like, no, it's not. And you're like, that is blue. And they're like, nope, it's not. Today it's red. And you're like, it's not, it's blue. And then all of a sudden it becomes this whole thing, and it's shared on social media and it gets wild. And you're like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of delusion happening right now in our world, even down to people like for musicians who come to me and say, I want to make 6 figures a year from music. And I'm like, cool. How long have you been to music? They're like, just a little bit. And do you know production? No. Have you trained songwriting? No. Are you a great vocalist? Still working on it. I'm like, then where are you getting this number of 6 figures? And how are you hopping all the way there without putting in the time? It's delusional. And they don't even know the business. So what I'm seeing is the kind of sociopath thing is happening because we have video games that you're killing people in all day long. And we have all the cartoons that people are just glued to, and we're desensitizing our youth. And then we don't realize that's happened to us when we were kids. And then we get older and we act like those sensitivities are still there because we're an adult. And it's like, no, some people, you've been taking them out of the game the whole time, and they didn't know it, from the foods they're eating to the conversations they've been having. But one thing that you mentioned that I want to go back on, you called it a pattern interrupt. And so some people who've met David Lyon here, if you met David, because he does hypnosis and he's coming here and talked, the thing that he tries to do is create a pattern interrupt to put people into another phase of their awareness, to get into their subconscious. So first and foremost, how did you figure out A, what pattern interrupt was, and B, why to do it?
I think the first part was intuitive. And then when we saw what happened with Sandwich, we just started practicing the same format, which I use the acronym PLAY for.
What is it?
PLAY. So pattern interrupt, landscape, meaning thrust them into a landscape. And you can do that with an idea. You can do it with music, thrust people into an emotional experience.
Okay.
Action, give them something to engage with, tell them to sing,
Yep.
So that there's something that they should do with this landscape they're in now. And then yes is guide them towards something more that they can say yes to in their life that creates a long-term behavioral change.
Whew, hopefully all of you wrote that down, because that acronym is great. That's a really great one, because what it is you're reprogramming them, because it all starts with the pattern interrupt.
And it's, it's doing the same thing that music and media and the things that are really damaging our sense of self and disconnecting ourselves from each other. It's using the same mechanisms.
Yeah.
Because those mechanisms work. Our minds work a certain way, our feelings work a certain way. We have feelings for a reason. And so knowing that is really exciting, because we could use the same media, music, all the same things, but now you have the full power. You understand how it works. So what do you want to say? What landscape do you want to put it in?
Yes, I love what you're saying, because once again, remember I told everyone when I first was talking to Aydika and she was explaining some of the things she does, I was like, you actually know what you want the result to be, and then you can get creative on how you want to get them there. Most artists aren't thinking about, I want people to completely transform their thoughts and their energy and then put them in an actionable place and have them. Most artists aren't getting there. There's like, I'm going to make a song. But if you're like, okay, let's think about it. I have a show coming up. How do I increment the PLAY acronym here? What can I do at my show that will have people have a whole new experience? So when that person leaves my show, or even during it, they have their phone out, they're sharing it, they're encompassed in it. Then they tell their friends, oh my God, that experience was great. Because that's what separates a successful touring musician and a non-successful touring musician. It's the experience. One for one, it's the experience. Did you have a great experience or did you not? That's awesome. Is there any other tips like that? What's up?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think you nailed it with experience, and experience is, what is the human emotional experience you want them to have? So what do you want them to put your song on for? You know, and like, I need to amp myself up. I need to feel like confident. I need to like cry for a second. I need someone to help me like believe in humanity. I need to just like be angry for a second, but in a productive way. Like, what do you want them to put your song on for? Okay. And when they hear your song, what do you want them to, like, at the end of the song, what do you want them to be feeling? You know, maybe are they going to do something differently after that, whether they're conscious of it or not? Does it occur to them that, like, you know what, I'm going to call, oh man, I just had a fight with someone I haven't talked to for 5 days. I'm going to give them a call. Whether or not they know the song inspired them to do that. That's what their action is.
That's deep. That's really deep. It sounds simple. Once again, you're doing exactly that formula I was saying. You're starting at the end, which I don't think most musicians do, because we start with the inspiration that gets it going, but we don't usually say, I want people to put this song on when they insert. So, hey, everyone, right now, if you can take that, almost like, remember old school Mad Libs? It would be like da-da-da-da, and then a blank line, you insert it. Maybe create your own version where you're like, I want people to feel like this when they hear my song. I want people to play my song when this is happening. So that way, when you're working on it, you actually have a direct point of view that is never swaying or changing, because you can hear a certain line and go, oh, I wouldn't feel like that if I was doing that for a breakup. Like, I wouldn't be saying that if I was doing that to get empowered. Like, I wouldn't be saying that. And you can actually probably check yourself while you're doing it. So that's an amazing tip you just gave.
Cool. Yeah. And it creates the most authentic, real work. Like, that's where it starts to come from, you know, noticing what songs you put on. Why are you putting that song on? You know, what do you feel by the end of it? What do you do afterwards? Do you do anything different? Do you think anything different? Just notice it in yourself. You know, going back to the money thing, I was like, oh, well, I can't do art until I have a successful business, and then I get to do art. And so I had this whole loop tied in. But then when I tried to think about doing something creative, I was starting with, well, what's going to sell? And, you know, it's like that got me completely lost, and then it helped me find myself again. And I'm still finding it again just these last few years. And it's been really freaking excited. And it's because I know why I'm doing it. I know why I'm making the art I make. I work at all different mediums. I'm currently working in plushies for mental health.
And we're definitely going to talk about that today.
This is your pet brain. But it's, you know, it's like, we are headed into great change in what's happening in humanity right now. And I'm really hopeful, but it's going to take a lot of education, a lot of collaboration, a lot of energy. And we're going to need the world to wake up and see some things that are really uncomfortable to look at. And so we also need a whole fleet of humans whose sole purpose is to keep the world inspired with our beauty and our possibility. Because if we start looking just at the dark, there's no reason to work through it, right? So musicians, artists, like, we are the mirrors of the world. We are the mirrors that are saying, yo, here's where we're at. Here's what we're all feeling. And all these different mediums, we can show that to you. And here's what it could feel like. Here's what it could be like. And it's up to you how you want to do that. But it's really starting with, you know, what is the possibility that you want to keep the world inspired with? What is the feeling you want to help people feel if you feel like they're stuck in it? You know, how can you help people think and feel in ways that they have an outlet for it? Like, music is such an outlet. So instead of getting mad at someone, you can just listen to that song and feel really complete and not feel angry and feel better. You know, so like, take people on a ride with sound. so that we can work through all this stuff. We can process this stuff. We're designed to work through emotions and thoughts through everything but these words. These words get us lost, right? But because they get us lost, we can also use them to paint a landscape. If that makes sense.
Really good. Really good. Okay, just out of curiosity, can you tell people about your brain, the brains behind you,
Yeah. So
and just tell us about the inspiration behind it and exactly what it is.
so this is your pet brain. It is a giant, huggable, oversized, with a tail stem, pet brain that is here to remind the world that number one, you are not your brain. You have a healthy whole brain inside of you with unique talents and superpowers just waiting to come out. And number two, you can have a dialogue with your brain and work in tandem with your brain as a unit to help you work through whatever it is and unleash those superpowers. So the main thing is you're not alone. You know, we all have this thing, but the bigger picture with brain is to use edutainment and media to get people more curious about what's going on with this squishy thing upstairs that creates our reality. You know, it's a little nutty. So people think about mental health. I really want to destigmatize and even popularize the concept of mental health. It's not about mental disorders, but it's about we all have these brains and they can mislead us, they can guide us, they can do all kinds of things. But it's a little insane to me that it's not a core piece of basic curriculum with
Yep.
STEM education, that we're not teaching kids K through 12 and adults the basics of how the brain works and
Yep.
what a thought is and is not, and what emotions are, and that none of them are bad, but they're part of being human. Is here's how we work with them. So my goal is to get basic education through edutainment, make it funny, entertainment, animations, cartoons, music, songs, into popular media and into US education. So, you know, we can equip the world to be able to navigate it. And the natural outcome of all of this is compassion. You know, you teach a bunch of eighth graders that we're all going to go through these emotions, name the emotion. They're naturally going to realize, oh, everybody else is feeling the same thing too. Everybody else is on this ride. So that's what you're
So
about.
that's so cool. And I for the people who didn't know, so when Aydika first told me about this, the brain and everything, and I was like, this is amazing, because even in the group, if you've been here long enough, you've heard me discuss how the brain works in detail and how no one's really taught these things. And then what happens is I mean, John Mark's you hear me talk about the brain all the time. Like, no one teaches this stuff. And yet people are walking around and they're acting like they're being led by this. And I'm like, they don't know how their brain works. And that's what's happening. And if we just understood it, and there's other things that we've talked about as well, Aydika, like just about the depth of how in schooling, they're basically repeating things that you most likely aren't going to use as an adult. So what happens is the short of the stick is they pump you full, most people, full of lots of sugar. So you become an addict by the time you're 5. Then you have addictive personality traits. You don't get what you want. You cry, you scream, you bang, you do everything that a same cokehead that I've met, or a crackhead, or someone on heroin has done the same exact thing. It's no different, just older, bigger people. You create addictive mindset. You don't teach them how to use money. You don't teach them how the brain works. You don't teach them how sex works. You don't teach them how communication really works. You don't teach them about empathy. You don't teach them these things. You don't teach them life skills. Basically, you just teach them how to do jobs to become slaves. Then they turn 18 years old and a parent kicks them out of the tribe and says, now leave the tribe of community. I'm going to give you a credit card that you do not know how to use, and you're going to be around other addicts with income that you've never had before. Anytime I write that down and show people, you would go, that sounds insane. Who does that in the world? And you're like, all these people. All these people do it. And most of them will pay for an education that they're not even going to use for another 4 years. So then the parents go into debt. These kids don't know how to get back inside. And then they go looking for jobs that they're never going to actually go after because they're getting paid the same wage as someone at Starbucks. It creates an insane reality for all people. And I think when you were talking about the brain, I was like, yeah, people just knew how their brain works. They can control their emotions as well. Because they could say, wait a second, I don't really feel that way. That's what the TV show made me feel.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part. Like, if you didn't stop any of the stuff from happening that's happening now, but you inserted an understanding of
Yep.
how my mind is receiving all this information and
Yep.
what my mind does when it receives information, that's going to change everything. And you can see, oh, when I eat this, it affects my brain chemically in this way. And when I have fear, like I become the fear unless I realize I'm having fear and this is normal. And here's the stuff that I can do with it. And that's why, part of brain is externalizing that. Because I use it all the time. Like, dude, do you really just think that? Like, really? What do you need? Okay, what do you need right now? Do you need a hug? Do you need food? Do you need to call someone? Right? So it's not about me being all the things. It's about my brain going through this. And we know that we're more than our brain, we're more than our minds, but just helping people understand what's happening alone is going to shift it. And we're so tired of being told what to do, what not to do, all these heavy messages. So if you can make it ridiculous, and just give the people something to fall in love with, then you can remind them it's actually you just fell in love with, right? This adorable, squishy thing that you relate to so much. This is you. And I think music and entertainment is one of the most powerful ways we can re-educate our nation, just like it's the same thing that uneducated our nation or the world. It sticks in you, make it fun, make it attractive. People start singing the lyrics, they don't even know what they're singing, but it's getting in their mind, it's getting in their soul.
So true. I was actually talking to, there's another mentor coming in soon to teach on frequency, and we're talking about frequency and vibration. I know I sent you a bunch of videos about those things. And this guy was telling me about how the chakras work. And I think I left you a message about that when I was saying how he said, like, your first chakra is your throat and everyone has access to that. But then your second chakra is sexuality. And what happens is that grows between the age of 10 to 19. And that's why it's really easy to kind of put people under a certain like hypnotic level of sexuality through music when they're younger. You hear all these beats, and because what happens is you hear the beat and you're not thinking of the lyric. And so like, if I ask someone like, you like that song? They're like, well, I just love the beat. It's because the beat is all kind of like associated with us on a tribal and part of our DNA. So we hear it and, we're just kind of moving to it, and they're not hearing all the lyrics that are saying like from the window to the walls. And you're like, wait, what is this guy saying? Why is this on the radio? And then I have my aunt in the background singing and dancing to it. And I'm like, why are you dancing to this at a 13-year-old's birthday party? This makes no sense. So they sneak it in through the beat. And I think there's so much more powerful things that could be snuck in on a beat that can actually help the world,
100%. 100%. And that's where the poetry of the lyrics and the timing of the lyrics it's so fun. Like it's really, really fun. You can say things so many different ways, and it's a way of almost, even though you're using words sometimes, it's almost a way of bypassing words, right? You're just like going straight, like soul to soul, emotion to emotion.
And I think that's the most potent kind, because there's no disconnect. There's no distortion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. I want to have a few more questions. Can you please tell us, everyone, a bit about the project you worked on? I saw it won a bunch of awards for the documentary, the project over in the Bahamas when you created the Kraken. Just real quick, can you tell me what the name of that is? Because I remember you mentioning it to me, and I can bring it up and kind of pull up on the screen.
Yeah, it's in the British Virgin Islands, and it's the Kodiak Queen is the film name. The project had a couple names, the BVI Art Reef and the Kodiak Queen. And the Kodiak Queen is the ship's original name. But this was kind of taking the P.L.A.Y formula and testing it at scale for global impact the first time in ocean conservation. So we discovered that there was a ship sitting in a junkyard in Tortola, one of the British Virgin Islands, about to get scrapped for metal. That was one of 5 surviving ships from Pearl Harbor. It was about to get destroyed. So there was a Unite BVI brought this challenge to us. It said, hey, we found this ship. We're not sure what to do with it. It's about to get scrapped. Meanwhile, so kind of back up a little bit. Every year we go to an island with one of the entrepreneurial groups, and it's one of the Virgin groups. And so they would present us with kind of like a theoretical thought experiment of how we might solve a global challenge. This year, they said, we've got the ship. How do we save the ship and do something with it? We've also got massive issue with the Goliath grouper being overfished, which is affecting coral populations, corals dying left and right. And then the third challenge is, even though this is an island nation, 9 out of 10 kids in the BVIs doesn't know how to swim. So it's a very, very segregated island nation. It's basically like millionaires and billionaires will come sail around, but it's almost a second, third world culture over there. So very few of the local islanders are in the industry that supports them. Don't go in the water. The parents don't swim, so they teach the kids the ocean's a dangerous place, and that just perpetuates. So I was looking at this and I was like, man, I came that year wanting to somehow combine ocean conservation with art and media. And I had no idea what that even was going to look like. But when they presented this, I was like, oh, let's make this fun. So what we ultimately ended up doing was taking that ship, we raised the funds to buy that ship, and then we put an 85-foot long steel kraken sculpture on it, so like a big octopus. And we created a sunken Disney-like dive site that tells the story of joy and regeneration, and worked with marine biologists to design the site so it would be the ideal hiding and mating feeding ground for these giant 800-pound fish. And then had part of the proceeds go to support youth swim education programs in the BVIs for kids, which is now throughout the islands. So I don't know if you can pull a picture
Yeah.
of, you can Google BVI artwork, you'll see the.
Well, I was gonna say, can you see it right now, Aydika? The screen?
It says the ship that survived Pearl Harbor, yeah.
We're putting a unique shipwreck on the seabed that will put the BVI up there as one of the most sought-after dive destinations in the Caribbean.
Having its final resting ground here in the BVI, that's a great honor in itself.
The project really revealed itself to be about something much bigger.
Our only industry is tourism. We have, unfortunately, nothing else.
Right now, money is sorely needed, and this is going to be the key to that.
So the reason why I want to show everyone that is it's a perfect example of thinking outside the box and thinking big. You know, that's a very unique thing to go, okay, how do we get the culmination of, we bring some money for the people who are here, we can teach something here of how to swim because not a lot of people are doing it. How do we also at the same time make sure that the coral reef can come back? How do we hit all these things we're looking for and then create something that's changing the perspective of what you're used to, so that way it becomes something new? And once again, it's that same formula that I was saying how Aydika thinks of, like, I know what the end kind of is, but now let's get creative on the beginning, right? Oh, you said here's some images. So if anyone goes in the chat, you can see some of the images from the final site. I mean, this is a massive project, and it's so cool to see that it did so well in all those film festivals and everything, because it's obviously a very interesting concept and took a good team to do it. One thing I want to touch about is you mentioned the team. So the big part of our group is understanding the power of networking. I don't think people realize how powerful it is until they're in the right positions to actually access it. Because sometimes people have an idea, but maybe it's not magnified by their network. But when you're around a really good network and you can all creatively think and you all have resources, things change. There's a different thing that happens. So kind of, if you can talk about a little bit, at least how networking and entrepreneurship circles has helped your life, because we're basically the first music networking place that takes things seriously. I know that you're involved with different ones in business and probably creative ones, but could you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's something that if you just get the right people together, it just starts to expand on an exponential scale. This is a perfect example of a question that I always ask in any project that seems a little crazy, which is, okay, how do I paint with people? How do we paint with people? Because when this idea came up, I sketched it out. I could see it in my head. I could see it on paper, like literally on the spot. And then I was like, okay, well, I've never sunk a ship before. I have no idea how to sink ships. I've never done an underwater. Blow them up.
You know, I'm just like, put a hole in them.
Yeah. I don't know how to design it in the way that it's going to like naturally want to stimulate coral. What do I know about the kids in the BVIs? What would actually get them curious about getting in the water? I don't know any of these things, but I know that there's a lot of people out there who do know all of those things. And so my job is to paint the vision, to start with, here's this vision, and here's why I think it's actually kind of cool and why it matters. And I'm going to say 85% of the people who ran that vision by, no matter how many sketches or maquettes or animatics we did, they're like, oh, get it. You're putting an octopus on a ship. And I was like, okay, cool. You don't see it. Find the people who do see it, right?
Mm.
That 50% that you say, and they're like, oh my God, this is, yeah, right? And they either have something that they've been waiting to bring to something just like this, or they know somebody. And it's always that person who's like just retired from this business and now really wants to go into ocean conservation. Then they've been in engineering or whatever it might be. But just getting clear on the vision, sharing it, and continuing to just refine how you share it and like hear what kind of helps paint the picture for people, like do a little sample of it in music, whatever it might be, and then find the people who get it and start building out, okay, well, who else do we need? Who else do we need? What are the core things we need? We need marine biologists. I need a ship logistics company. I need donors. I need to talk to people who really understand the culture of the BVIs, all of these things. And so that was definitely one of the most complex and politically complex projects I've done to date. And it involved so many people. And the thing that made it work was we created this common vision. We kept the vision rooted in joy and possibility. And we made sure that everybody who was involved in it was seeing the same vision the whole way through.
Okay. Once again, if you're seeing the pattern, that's the reason why I bring on people, is because I love to see the patterns that they're creating. She's saying, I started with the vision. She started with the end in mind, once again. So I would take a massive notebook and just make sure you're doing the same thing with your music, because that's exactly how this stuff works, is you have an end in mind. Like, you're looking for what you're looking to do. You're not just kind of randomly playing songs, hoping things will work, but you're like, I have an end in mind and I'm going to go towards that. And I'll shape it as I go, but at least I'm stepping towards a vision that I see and not just kind of stepping into the sea with no vision. Those are two different things. So if you look at that part, then she said she was looking for people who got it. This is so important, y'all, because I can tell you so many people who've turned down songs in the beginning, and that same song would get picked up for something massive. If I just listen to the people who are telling me no, there's no way to have some of the credits that I do. It's because I said, you know what? I think it's pretty cool, and I trust my judgment now. Yes, there's some experience level that had to get to me to that point where I had to trust my judgment. It was doing a lot of songs and knowing which ones really resonate with people and when they resonate with me. And I found that correlation. And then I thought, okay, when I feel this, I don't care what anyone says. I know what that feeling's like. So that takes a little bit of calibration and tuning. But once you have that, it's really finding people who get it. I think it's so important that Aydika said that, because I've seen a lot of people stop because someone who didn't get it just didn't see it. And then the person stops. And you're like, yeah, but there's 8 billion people in the world. Not everyone's going to get what you're doing it. Well, it was my mom. It was my friend. So what? Just because they're close to you, they know all the answers? That's not how it works.
It's generally, watch out for the people closest to you, right? They love you. They want the best for you. And so a lot of times the first thing they're going to think is, oh man, I don't want her to fail, or I don't want her to fail.
Yep.
Right. And so just be careful about that, because I found that sometimes it is, my sister was one of the people who's like, I don't get it. It's one of your weird ideas. And I was like, yeah, let me just do it. But there's a great question here. How do you find people who get it? That's a two-way street, right? So it's not just about, well, you're not like visionary enough if you don't get it. It's also paying attention to what are they not getting, and what do I need to do to communicate this better? Do I need to draw it? Do I need to do a mind map of it? Do I need to make a short little animatic of it? Do I need to sketch it? Do I need to make put it to music? What do I need to do? And keep trying every medium you can think of to communicate it in as short as few sentences or as few minutes as possible. And pay attention to when you can kind of watch them click, right? There's always that one thing that you say that everyone's like, oh, okay, I got them there. They saw that. Use that again and stack that. So even being able to explain this project, it took me a while to get to the point where we could say, well, we took an old World War II ship and we transformed it to a sunken Disney-like dive site that tells the story of joy and regeneration. That's my tagline. It took me a long time to get to that, because it's well, we found this World War II ship and put a Kraken on it, and it was a lot of things. So just watching people, and you start to build the people, you start to build your format. I had to do drawings in this case. I can't expect people to see what I see in my head as much as I would love that. So compassion for other people, compassion that everybody learns and comes to new ideas from different angles, and trying to paint it in as many angles as you can, while still staying true to your medium.
That is beautiful. I mean, I think everyone, if you could just take a note out of that, of having the ability to, as you start to create your vision of what you see for your career, or maybe you're doing a project. I know some people are, one woman I met today who's in the group, she's doing like a full theater project that's immersive, and everyone has these different projects they're working on right now, but they all base themselves around similar formulas that are all fundamental to making them successful. And especially if you're looking for investors, I know some people have their own companies, their own labels they're starting, things like that. You might want to get investment, you might not, depending, but all these things of knowing how to quickly, like you said, a few words, almost like on the back of a napkin type thing, can say what your goal is and how it affects people in a positive way, or how the full vision comes out. If you can do that shortly and quickly, you'll see the eyes light up, because some people can't get things when it's too much information, even no matter how passionate you are about it. So I think that's really good of learning how to have like your tag of what you stand for, why is it important, in a very short way is really good. I love the way you just said that. If you don't mind, what I'll do is I'll open up just the questions. We have about 8 more minutes. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to write them in the chat window, and we can have them directed towards Aydika right now for the last few minutes we have with her.
One note while people are thinking too is something that really helped me, was like a big tipping point, was when it occurred to me to not just look at my goal, but to look past my goal. Once I've achieved that, what's after that? That'll paint so much more clarity of what you're really doing. And when you can share that, now you really have that landscape that you're trying to place people into.
Wow, that's a good one. Because you're right. Some people just go for what's this thing. And it's kind of like when I said earlier, where someone will say to me, like, I just want to my dream is to get my song on TV. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, if I just get my song on like MTV or something, I'd be so happy. And I'm like, okay, but once you get that, that's only going to pay you $500. What are you going to do after that? Like, what's the bigger goal? When you set yourself up for, I plan on doing this and it's going to lead to this and that, and you have more of a vision for it, you know, when you're not doing the thing that's aligned with the final vision. Because sometimes people will kind of go off track to get this immediate thing, but their whole bigger vision, whatever they're doing they don't line up at all. And so keeping it all kind of streamlined is, I like the way you said that. Okay, we have a question here. It says, can you share about the yin yang sign you have in the background? It's different than the usual one.
Yeah, this is actually, this is an art piece that was just found on the street by a buddy of ours, with a really neat creative firm in New York, by a guy in the street that was basically living on the street to sell his arts. And he thought this was so brilliant because there's more than two sides to all of us. There's the piece inside, and I don't know, we just really resonated with it. Yeah, we just really resonated with it and thought it was cool. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Anything that reminds us that maybe there's something more than what we just accepted as the way is generally the type of stuff that we like to have around the house. Again, that pattern disrupt.
Beautiful. Okay, next question from Bridget says, did you have to leave things behind as you were getting clearer on your vision?
You know, it's always like a refining fire. So I would say it's really how you look at it, right? It's occurring to me, I have a lot of changes happening in my life right now that I'm not leaving anything behind. I'm transitioning into something new. I still have all that stuff. I still have those relationships. And there are some things that are going to change. When you really start to share what you're passionate about, that refining fire comes up a lot socially. It comes up a lot in what you do with your day, with side jobs or whatever it is. But I don't think we really leave any of them behind, because if you take any of those things out from your past, you probably wouldn't have some tool or some understanding that you're going to use right now moving forward. But yeah, it can create big change. I just keep looking at it as possibility, new possibility, new possibility. And sometimes there's that space between, and going after something that you really feel and see deeply inside can have a space in between where you learn to sit with the discomfort. But there's a lot of change happening right now. And if I can sit with the discomfort through this process, if I can be in the birth canal, I will be birthed. And so I stay with that. Like, this is like, I'm going through the contractions. This is really dark. I don't even know where the end is, but if I can stay in this freaking birth canal, I will be birthed.
Great. All right, we have one more question, possibly. Let's see, from Gretch. Said, how did you realize there was a bigger goal than your vision?
Um, when I had to think past it. So, I was thinking about the art reef, like, cool, like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Let's get this going. Let's sync it. Let's get an MPO going. And then what? It's like, well, what's the MPO going to do next? And where is this 10 years from now? And because I was painting the vision for people, I had to answer these questions for myself. And that fleshed out so much more of it. We now have 3 art reef dive sites in the islands. One's a sunken pirate ship scene. One's the Sharknado scene. All of them are shrapnel from Irma. We didn't even, like, this happened before Irma, like a year before Irma. So, it ended up being an incredible project because it brought so much attention and rehabilitation to the BVIs because of it. But it occurred to me, okay, yeah, so what happens next? And am I thinking too small? So whatever business or label or song or whatever it is, okay, say you get that, like, you get that hit and you're on TV or whatever, what happens 2 years after that? Where are you? Why do you want that? Why does it even matter for you to be on TV? Like, what are you gonna do with that?
Yeah, what someone says, Adam may do a lightning round with Aydika. Oh, those are the best lightning rounds. I wish we did. We actually have one of our Aydika and my friend actually is applied to be in the membership group. So he has his first mentorship interview in like 4 minutes. So I have to go to that. Otherwise, I would love doing a lightning round with Aydika. Just so you know, Aydika, in the future, if we ever do one of these, I basically shoot a bunch of interesting questions that keep you on your toes. That's all. But that being said, I just wanted to ask you, Aydika, and just so everyone knows, like, Aydika and I really do share the passion of helping to inspire creatives so that way y'all can be the next voices that help to change the societies that are in front of us and to be that reflection in a positive way of music. So Aydika, is there anything that you feel that you'd like to say to the group? Anything from the heart that you feel is connecting with a perspective that you bring for everyone?
I guess just know what you are, receive what you are. We are not taught how to receive our gifts in this world very well. It's like, oh no, it's, that song just came out of me or whatever it is. You have been bestowed with gifts and with talents, and you didn't ask for them, but you have them. So it's your option to steward them, because if we don't receive our gifts, we can't keep giving them. And you were given these gifts to do something with. And I believe that you guys, all of us having this conversation, we are the voices of the world. We are the mirrors, and we are the power that shifts things. And this isn't putting yourself above or below anybody, but know what you have and steward that. Like, I love you guys. This is family. We're in this together, and we have the opportunity to make this humanity and this planet the most incredible experience to live in. We have all the technology and the resources to make this planet as beautiful as we want and can dream. So you guys are doing it.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. I totally agree. We have enough money, resources, intelligence, and technology on this planet right now to make it become the best thing it's been. And we just need to start to believe in those powers and believe in each other, I think, more, and realize that whenever there's division, that's when destruction comes in. And the more that we can stay a unit that's looking to become in harmony with what's already been here for thousands and millions of years, and just support each other in that, then I think we'll be working towards the right situation.
And we can't do it alone, and that's the beautiful part. That's the beautiful part. We're not supposed to.
Agreed. Okay, well, that being said, Aydika, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us today. I truly appreciate you doing this for everyone. I know you didn't have to, so just you blessing us with your presence has been really great. And hopefully for everyone else here, I see a lot of thank yous, a lot of thumbs up, and a lot of reactions to thinking outside the box. And I really just want to challenge everyone. Let's start to think outside the box in a big way. Because think about if all of our members can start to think as big as Aydika's putting these projects together, imagine what 500 musicians in a room could do with that kind of power worldwide. It's immense. So that's the reason why I want to bring her in today, is just to shift the paradigm of thought.
That being said, it's just a numbers game. Enough people thinking this and understanding this, it is just a numbers game.
1000%. All right. That being said, everyone, I hope you all have a great day. And Aydika, once again, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Later, y'all.
Let's hear from
Take
you
care.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.